Hi everyone, Jessica here from Paper Ink Stamp and welcome back to my channel. So today's video we're going to be creating a Mother's Day card using our Mother's Day paper pad. This is still available to buy on my Etsy shop and I will leave a link in the description box down below. So I haven't done too many Mother's Day cards and projects, not as many as I was planning to because I have missed a few uploads this month unfortunately. I have got another project to share to use with these papers again. That is going to be after Mother's Day, but it's something that you can use for lots of different occasions. I just happen to be making it as a Mother's Day gift. So yeah, that is coming, but it will be after Mother's Day. So I'm creating a card today. I wanted to do something that wasn't just a simple, standard card. I wanted to create something a little bit more interesting. So I don't know if this has a proper name, but it's just a card within a card basically. And it's just a more interesting fold, but it's super easy to create. I'm going to create a square version today. So my overall card size is going to be 5 3/4 inches. So it will fit in a 6-inch envelope. So what you need for this is 2 card bases, or I've taken 2 card bases. My biggest card base, like I said, is 5 3/4 inches square. And then I end up cutting down the front panel of that to be 3 inches. You can see here, and we're going to pop one card inside of the other. So that smaller card base is 4.5 inches and it's going to sit inside, and then you can open it up. You open up the smaller one and then you open up the like single strip, and then yeah, it's just a slightly more interesting card, but again, it's super easy to create. So I made this again from just some pre-made card bases, or you can make these bases yourself. Again, yeah, it's just something a touch more kind of interesting. So we're going to take our papers, and I will sort of speed up a little bit because I do kind of faff around, to be honest, with trying to pick which papers I want to go where on the project. So I take 3 papers from within my paper kit. You could have every single panel be different. You have enough paper for that, but I just decided to do 3 pages from the paper pad, and then I've got 2 panels with each of the papers. So essentially what you're going to need is 1 piece of patterned paper, which is going to measure 5.5 inches squared. You're going to need 2 pieces, which is going to measure 2 3/4 inches by 5.5 inches square. And then you'll need 3 pieces, which is going to measure 4.25 inches square. So again, I've done a square card. Yes, we do have that half strip for that inside piece, but it's really easy measurements because it's just a square card. And like I said, you can use different paper for each of the panels, but I have doubled up with my pages just to not have like tons of leftovers, to be honest, where I've cut into every piece. I can use the other pages for the other project that I have in mind. So again, just a really simple card, something that's just a little bit fun, a little bit different. A big tip I've got is you don't want to kind of assemble this card before you've added all of your patterned paper. If you do, because you're going to stick the back of your smaller card to the back of your bigger card, you're not going to be able to add a piece of patterned paper to the back of your bigger card, if that makes sense. When you see it, it will make sense. Otherwise, you'd have to just add strips all the way around it. So definitely add your patterned paper before you glue your 2 pieces together. So I have a couple of pieces, that you can see together, but when the card is closed, all you can see is the 3 different patterned paper. So you just need to decide where you want to add your paper. So unfortunately, I missed the footage of actually gluing the papers down, but you can see this is how the card opens, and you can see where I've got the patterned paper on that back piece of the bigger card base. Again, if you assemble your card before you've added that piece, you're not going to be able to add a piece to the back of it essentially. And then when the card is closed, like you can see it here, you won't see then that patterned paper on the right hand side. So for our topper, so this paper pad doesn't come with a topper. So I went into my stash and I actually just decided, because it was already out and it was easy to grab, I picked up the free gift from last month's issue of Simply Cards and Papercraft. We haven't had this month's actually. I don't know if that one is delayed through the post, but I decided to take the one from last month and use the big floral. I hadn't used this in the 2 cards that I made previously, so I thought we would give this one a go, and I thought it would go really nicely with the papers. And I decided to do a little bit of watercolouring because I haven't pulled my watercolours out for a long time, and then just to really be able to have the same sort of style. Because the papers are that more watercolor kind of style, I decided it would fit in a little bit nicer and try and do the same kind of colors. So I used the watercolor paper that I bought from Lidl, and actually I've used it a few times now and I'm really happy with it. I am quite impressed. I've gotten some really great results with it. So if you find that comes into your local Lidl, it is something worth trying, and it really wasn't that expensive. So what I'm going to do is stamp and do a little bit of clear embossing, just so we have some nice raised walls, if you like, where the black outlines is going to be, and it's going to stop all of our colours of the watercolour from sort of running together. So I used my anti-static powder tool to begin with to make sure that the embossing powder didn't stick anywhere we didn't want it to. Stamped it with the Versafine ink because it stays wet a little bit longer, and then I'm going to just sprinkle over some clear embossing powder. So I'm using just some scrap paper here just to sort of catch any excess. This is a desk pad that I'm working on for things like this, for colouring, for using just if you've got any sort of messy projects that you're working on, you can just, it's glued at the top side and you can just rip the pages off once they've gotten sort of too mucky, and then obviously throw them away, recycle them, whatever it is you do with you know, your scrap paper. But yeah, it's there, and it can be used just to kind of prevent your sort of desk getting sort of too messy. So these will be going on sale soon. I have just changed the design a little bit. So this is the pad I'm working with that I made as a sort of prototype, but the design will change when it goes on sale. But yeah, so I'm just melting my embossing powder with the heat tool. So some tips with using your heat tool to melt your powder. You want to let your heat gun just heat up for maybe about 30 seconds to a minute, something like that. The hotter it is, or when it gets up to temperature for the powder to melt, it will melt more instantly, which will then prevent things like warping of your cardstock too much. It will stop any of your powder being blown off. So yeah, just allow your heat gun to warm up a little bit to begin with. These are just some, I can't remember, these the Arteza watercolors, I think they are. Yeah, I'm really not doing anything fancy here because I'm really not fancy pants at the moment with my card making. And I wanted it to be quite subtle. So when you actually, I'm looking at the card now, you can see the colour there, but it is subtle. It does go with those papers really nicely. So even though there aren't any toppers or anything like that to go with a paper pad, have a look in your stash what you've got, what is going to work nicely. So I just stayed with some blues and some pinks, a little bit of purple, and then I did just do obviously a little bit of green for those greenery. But yeah, again, really nothing kind of too precious here. I wanted it to have quite a fluid look to it, to not be too perfect. So I did just use my heat gun then as well, just to help dry this off before then going in and fussy cutting around it. I did end up fussy cutting off the butterflies. I was planning to put them back on, fussy cut around those separately and add them back on, but I just forgot all about it, to be honest with you. I think I just chucked all of the scraps into the bin, but it's a really easy one to go around. Obviously with it being watercolor card, I don't think it's particularly thick. I can't remember, I want to say it was about 190 GSM, something like that. Sometimes when you have the thicker card, it's a little bit harder to fussy cut around because the paper's thick. It's hard to kind of move it about, but also with fussy cutting, it just takes a little bit of practice. I'm by no means an expert. It's not something that I particularly enjoy doing. Some people really love fussy cutting, but you know, it gets the job done. One of the tips that a lot of people give is to move the paper rather than those scissors, and just to try and make sure you get a nice kind of even white border all the way around your image. So I'm just going to finish cutting that out and then we can get that onto the front of the card. And it's really nice actually just how well this fits onto the card and, you know, onto this panel as well. It's a really great stamp actually. I'll leave a link in the description box down below to the magazine. It's probably still on sale on the Craft Stash website. So I'll leave a link to it there. They've also got a Happy Mother's Day stamp as well. I think I mentioned this in the first video where I used the stamp set. It had a really great variety of stamps in here, sentiments, sorry. So you've got a few different occasions in there. I don't have it to hand, so I can't remember what we've got. Though I do have the magazine. So today is your day. Just to say, obviously we've got Mother's Day, happy birthday. Yeah, I'm just sort of flicking through the magazine. Sending love, you're so special. And that's probably about it, I'd imagine. So yeah, some really great sentiments in there anyway. And one of the projects I'm going to be doing is, and I think I did mention this as well when we looked through the magazine, is they have a post-it note holder. So we're going to be making one of those. I've printed out the template. So that is going to be the project that you're going to see to finish off the sort of Mother's Day series, really. So I've stamped the sentiment onto some white card, and again just dipping that through some clear embossing powder. I don't really use embossing powder that much, and I think it can make a big difference to kind of a more simple card, to be honest, for no other reason sometimes than just the noise of the heat gun. Like if Florence is in bed or something, then I don't tend to I try not to do anything that's too noisy. But yeah, I'm trying to just slowly use more and more of my products because I have them. I should use them. That saying, I've said it in a couple of videos now, and I read it somewhere or someone said it, and it was that it was something to do with paint, and it was paint isn't wasted when it's in the bottle. Paint isn't wasted when it's used, it's wasted when it's left in the bottle. So I'm really just trying to use a lot of my stuff and kind of get back into the swing of things. But I've pulled out my circle nesting dies. So I've found a circle that fits my sentiment really nicely. And then I've done I will be die cutting a bigger circle, which it ends up being too big, so I cut it down a little bit. But I'm going to do a circle layer then behind it using the brushstroke paper. Again, just to matte and layer it, just to add another layer, a little bit of interest to the front of the card then as well. So this card is quite basic in what it is, but I think it's really nice and effective because, it's something a little bit different. The design of it is different, but it's so easy to make. It really didn't take that long to put this together, especially if you're using some pre-made card bases as well. But you don't have to just do square. You could then look at other sizes that you could do for this. You could look at other, maybe like a 5x7. You could do a landscape version, like an A6 version. You've got lots of scope there to kind of change this up and make it work really for whether it's papers, whether it's a particular stamp that you want to use. Build your cards around the products that you've got and how maybe you would best fit those. Sometimes I find some stamp sets can have quite small images, and unless you're doing like a big scene or you're including a lot of stuff on a card, sometimes they can get a little bit lost. So really, realistically, you want to put those smaller images onto a smaller card because it'll help it feel fuller. It's not like you're going to have loads of kind of empty space within your card or project. So yeah, just sort of a few tips there really with that. So I've just die cut, you can see both of these circles, and you saw then that the circle was too big initially, so I have just trimmed that down. And then we've got a really nice little layer for our sentiments here. So I'm going to add some foam just to add a little bit of dimension, a little bit of interest with our flower. I'm going to, again, just using the actual leftover pieces of this foam sheet here. It's all still foam. No one's going to look down behind the back of it and see that it's not, a regular foam square or anything like that. So otherwise it really is just a waste here. But on some of the smaller areas, I am going to use some of those foam dots there as well. So I'm going to add this onto the front of the card. I'm going to add then our sentiment again is going to go on with, I'm adding a lot of foam to this, aren't I? Sometimes I think, do I go, I want things to be stable on the card and not kind of sag. So I do use a lot of foam. Whereas sometimes I watch people make cards and they literally will do like a little tiny circle foam in each corner, or maybe and then one in the middle possibly. And I always think that's not a lot of foam. Is that going to stand up? Is it going to sag? But yeah, I just think I always add a lot of foam. To things just to give it that stability, to make sure that it's going to stand up, to make sure you're not going to get any sagging in areas, because I have had that happen in the past, and there's really nothing worse than when you kind of look back at a finished project and then see that it's it's sort of the middle of it is sagging, or you got one side which is sagging. It can be a little disheartening. So the last thing I'm going to do for this card, I've added my sentiment with a thicker foam pad just so it stands up again, up higher than our floral bouquet. And I'm just going to add some Nuvo drops. I went in, I'm not sure what the colour was, I should really write these things down, but it was a blue glitter one, a glitter Nuvo drop, and yeah, I'm just going to add those around the flower itself, just again for a little bit of last minute embellishment. But you can see that stamp with that little bit of heat embossing. You've seen the papers, you see how it opens. It's just a really quick and simple card that you can create that's just something slightly more interesting. So that is today's card finish. So this will be the last Mother's Day card that I create this year. So not really much of a series, but there we go. These things happen. So let me know in the comment section down below what you think. Again, this paper pad is still available to purchase. Yeah, let me know what you think in the comment section down below. If you like it, give this video a thumbs up. So that's going to be it for today's video. So thanks very much for watching and happy crafting.